the miners are deciding deliberately to not go out of those mines with the millions in their possession, and by default canceling the whole thing. Because if they come out, those who are not eating from this might institute commission of inquiry, might take the loot, might connive for these people to come out of the mine and clearly lock all the gates. I want us to forget about this. What do you call them? This court human rights commission who are taking the government. We've done a lot of those. We'll pack it and then we'll discuss it later. But let's talk about what could be behind these people's refusal, as it were, to come out the mine. So since I did the podcast, so those who've not seen the podcast, at the end of this, just look at the podcast where Julius Malema himself says these people must be smoked out. And Julius Malema goes further to say, if anyone, the miners included, take up arms or you point the police with a gun, must be taken out. It doesn't care which country you come from. Julius Malema says so, it's not me. So I want us to talk about what could be the reason behind a change of heart. To be honest, there's no much change of heart on this, besides the fact that maybe those who are benefiting from this have been overpowered by those who are not. And so that's the typical story that I would go to. Of course, I will not have proof for any of this. So here's the thing. Julius Malema says if they refuse to go out, they must be smoked out. And it's not even on this incident of Northwest and Mpumalanga where Sabi is. He says anyone who takes up arms must be dealt with harshly. And you would see politicians are running away precisely because they do not want to be seen to be the ones who are strong and heavy-handed against people who will go and defend, who will be defended in courts by the Human Rights Commission. So here are the scenarios that people have painted. Number one, let's start with this one. They are not trapped. They are deliberately staying down because they want to evade arrest. And in evading arrest, meaning they don't want to disclose information about the intelligence of how this thing runs. Number two, others are saying, no, the operations is out there. There's a gentleman who spoke about how much he collects from these miners and how much money he makes nationally. He came out as a spokesperson for these people. So it's been packed, that one. So this one counters this one. The other one is, which is more likely, according to me, these people have so much money in their hands, whether in these stolen reserves, and I'm not even sure stolen is the right word, in this loot that they have in their hands, or in cash that they know the cops will take away from them. So when I'm saying take away from them is so whenever they take this thing, they're not going to declare. And it will obviously give the other camp an upper hand, because these two sides that are making national news, is it Sterfontein and Savi in Mpumalanga. It may not be the only ones, but spotlight is shined on these two because they look topical. I want us to discuss, according to you, what could be the biggest thing that makes this thing not to work, or it will expose the industry players, and that's why it's kept that way. Or this Human Rights Commission, that's another spin-off. This Human Rights Commission, and when I say Human Rights Commission, I'm just talking about all the NGOs involved in defending lawbreakers in South Africa. So they are widely known as human rights a human rights commission. Of course, it's human rights bodies, NGOs who campaign for the rights of the underprivileged at some point, and the ones who cannot afford lawyers and stuff. So South Africans interestingly, they just call them Human Rights Commission. Of course, Human Rights Commission is it's a state-owned institution. State-owned? Well, let's just call it a Chapter 9 institution. So they call everyone who does that, all this, the Helen Suzman foundations and stuff. So they call them a Human Rights Commission because they come with defenders of human rights. These people are actually in cahoots with the ANC government. It's an allegation that was flooded to me. So these people are actually in cahoots with the ANC government players who, whenever they do not want to do something, they tip these human rights organizations to come and challenge them. So they have to do something. For example, it would have been very difficult for politicians to say, we are giving these people food. They don't want to give them food. They don't want to give them water. They don't want to give them stuff. Because the business community and the political elites are actually funding and commissioning this illegal miner, this Zamazamas allegation. So it is their people who are there. So the government must look as if they are the ones who are refusing to take care of those people, but the Human Rights Commission are doing it. So if you look at it, it's a case of you pretend to be doing this. So when I do it, I would say I was forced by the courts to do it. How true is it? How likely is it? It's actually very likely. It's very possible with what the ANC has been doing in South Africa. It's so very likely, and I don't see why I wouldn't believe such. What is the big game? The big game is, and it's two spheres on that one as well. The big game is it allows Black, African in particular, who wins mining rights or who have connections to mining certain areas, whether it's a quarry, whether it's whatever it is, who enter into a market that is already locked by industry players like old money and stuff. They've already locked this thing. It's very difficult to go into it. People are talking about mining equipment is very expensive, and paying people with their rights, international rights and stuff, it's very expensive. You could just buy land. We can just acquire that mining right of a particular place via DMR, and then you have an operation that looks legal, that's fronted legal, and then at the backside you run these zamazamas. It's very lucrative and it's very profitable, and they allege it's the only profitable means of entering the mining sector, because if you do it open hand, is very difficult. And where did these guys take it from? These guys took it from the big mining firms, the Anglos, the Lonmins, all of this, the implants and stuff. This is what they allege. South 32s and stuff, all these big mining companies, the BHP Bulletins, all these big companies, they are alleged to be running some sort of a minor operations where some of the commodities that are mined are not being declared. Allegation. So you look at it, it's far-fetched, and you look at why are the reasons these people are not coming out is because the instruction is clearly to say, don't come out, we'll take care of you. It is what is alleged as an instruction. How true? Like I said, very likely. I believe it. If you was ask me, I believe it could be true, and I believe all of this could be in all-in-one games plan to make sure that people do not unravel and dismantle this big billion-dollar black mining. When I say black, I don't mean racial one. I'm just saying into the black market. We are unfortunately given this this thing with this color that is associated with backdoor things. So if this thing is dismantled, a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money. So they are holding fort, they are negotiating. So there's not that negotiation from the underground. Big players outside are negotiating to come up with a solution on what should happen with this mining thing. You ask me how it should be done. I do not know. So someone said the cowards of the ANC who led for 30 years, they lied to people, say they were ready to govern. Now they are finding it very difficult to govern properly. They end up stealing from themselves. So when they say stealing from themselves, is the ANC wants to go or wants to advance a state where artisanal mining is seen as a legal prospect. But the big funders of all these political parties who reside in Stellenbosch, that we call white monopoly capital, who control the actual economy, do not support this artisanal mining, and they will delay it if it's passed into law. So what's the best thing for them to do? While they're negotiating them, they are stealing from themselves. Stealing from themselves, I just mean, this is the mining opportunity for Africans in particular to enter this big mining space. But the big bosses do not want them. So instead of campaigning against the person who feeds you, you end up stealing from yourself because you could not beat these people. Machine politically correct, I want us to talk about this. Please tell me, what is it that you feel is wrong here? What is it that you think could be done? And if it's done, which way is the best way? Which way is the best solution? And even if these two sites are solved, that is Sabi in Mpumalanga and Northwest Stilfontein, do you think it will ever be eradicated? I bet not. So this falls into the top 10 list of the things that I don't think will ever be solved in South Africa. Machine politically incorrect. Tell me what you feel about it. Each other.